Good morning, members. Good morning, members of the public. You're all very welcome to this morning's meeting of Babergh District Council's Planning Committee. I'd like to welcome you all here. First of all, may I remind you of some domestic arrangements. Please ensure that microphones and cameras are turned off when not in use, that you do not interrupt other speakers, that if you wish to speak, point of order, declare and interest or request an adjournment, please use the hands up function on the taskbar. Members are reminded that they should not have alternative communication lines open, i.e. other team chats, and that if you are contacted by a third party during an application, you should bring this to the
Linda Keenan
legal advisor's attention. That if you are attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. If members do lose connection to the meeting, they must contact the member support officer, Mandy Smith, as soon as possible. You all have that number. We will be using modern.gov to conduct all electronic votes during the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewings. The whole of the meeting will be recorded, except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you will be deemed by the council to have consented to being recorded. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you're also consenting to being recorded by the council and to the possible use of those sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. The council, members of the public and press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. I'd like to introduce the Area Planning Manager, Mark Russell, Planning Lawyer, Ian Duprace, Governance Officer, Robert Carmichael, and Case Officer, Samantha Summons. Members, I'd now like to move to the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is substitutes and apologies. Robert, do we have any? Robert Carmichael. Right. I think you're muted at the moment. We seem to have lost you.
Apologies, Chair.
Right. We can see you and hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me. It's still showing as mute on mine. Apologies. We have apologies today from Councillor Alison Owen.
Thank you. And there's no substitutions, is that?
No, Chair.
Thank you. All other members are present per our papers. Right, item number 2, declarations of interest. Do we have any? I see no hands going up, so I'll take that we haven't. Item number 3, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of March. Members. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'll just adjust. I just wondered whether we should include a recorded vote for all members, as it's recorded who proposed and seconded each item, but it's not recorded how other members voted. I just thought, in the interests of perhaps total transparency and fairness to each member, that that should be disclosed to the public in the minutes how each member voted.
Good point. Robert, what is our normal procedure on this?
Thank you, Chair. Can I be heard, just to check?
Yes, yeah, we can hear.
Go any further?
Can't
Fantastic.
see you. We can't see you. Yes, we can
it
now.
says it should be on. I'll go talk slowly if it's having connection issues. So in the minutes, that are before you, that is not included. However, all of the votes that members have taken and how they're voted are recorded on the website. It's part of council procedure rules and committee and subcommittee procedure rules that for them to be recorded in the minutes, we would need to go for the extra step at the time of a vote for a proposer, seconder and one other member to request a recorded vote. However, I would draw members' attention to the fact that all votes are now recorded on the website and can be viewed under the items as required under the vote that was taken and the motion that was put to council earlier this year with regards to that.
Right. So, and members then, unless it's requested at the time of voting for a recorded vote, which would be listed in the minutes, it can't be done afterwards. It's just on the website. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hello?
I think Linda Keenan might have joined us. I will just,
right. Yep,
I think that's good news in one sense. I'll just pause there, Chair. Linda Keenan, can you just confirm that you can hear us? And
yes,
we can
I can hear you.
Well done.
Fantastic. I'll just put you on mute until the appropriate time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Councillor Barrett, did you want to come back? You heard what was said?
Yes. Okay.
It never reads very well, does it, when it's like it was? I have to admit, I read it and I thought exactly the same as you.
It's just that you can sometimes come in for an awful lot of criticism from the members of the public who disagree with the way you voted, and the person who proposes or seconds gets the lion's share of that. And it's just a bit unfortunate, really, that people don't always go and check that out fully as to how other members vote. But I'll leave it for the moment then.
I think that's perhaps a matter, Councillor Barrett, that perhaps we should take up with the leader of the council and the monitoring officer to see whether we need to change the rules or do anything at all about it.
Well,
I think it's a good point, because when I read that, I'd have liked to know in the two that the abstentions that happened, and going on the website is the only way I can find out. Well, I must admit I haven't had time yet to do that.
Yeah.
And most people will think the same, I think. So I think you do have a point. I would suggest you carry it forward in the appropriate way.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I've got another couple of hands up. We're on the minutes. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've just proposed that we accept the application. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see if I'll get a second, because I've seen another hand. Councillor Ayres.
Yes, and I will second the minutes.
You're coming up just as a black outline. We can't see you at all.
Well, that's no shame with my face. Never mind.
Okay, thank you. Seconded. Any other comments, members? There's two hands up if they can go down. Thank you. Right then, members, I'll ask Robert to take us through the procedure for the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. I would ask members just to bear with me one moment, as I don't think it's just myself, but I think the system is running quite slow today in all respects. So if members could please go to the modern.gov app and go to today's agenda, they will see in the top right hand corner a plus sign. If they go to the plus sign and click on that and click on the subsection of attendance/voting, they will then see the voting tab and the light blue line which shows the vote in progress.
And then I've got to come down and close.
Thank you, Chair. All votes have now been received, and that is 10 votes for.
Thank you very much. Right, we'll move on, members. On item 4, which is to receive any notifications of petitions. Robert, do we have any?
None received, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 5 is site inspections. Are there any site inspections, officers, that you request?
None requested, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Members, are there any site inspection requests? No hands up, so I'll take that no. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to item number 6, and that's planning applications for determination by the committee. And we'll go to 6A, which is Upper Street, Layham, and the case officer is Samantha. All right. So, Samantha Summons, would you like to take us through the application? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't seem to be able to share my screen at the moment.
Right.
So I don't know if
Robert or Mandy, can anybody help?
What is it showing, Sam?
it's not giving me the option. It says only meeting organisers and presenters.
Oh, hold on, I can sort that out, Chair, no problem.
Well done. This modern technology is brilliant when it all works. We just need some young people who are more than capable of keeping us on the straight and narrow tracks of it.
Could you try that now, please, Sam?
Yeah, I will do. Just take a moment to load up. Could
yes,
you yeah,
yes,
you
we
can see
it. Well done.
Okay.
We can see and hear you.
Lovely. Okay. So this presentation will cover 2 applications for the same proposal, for planning and also listed building consent. Members will debate and vote on each application separately. The applications to be considered are for the erection of extensions to provide additional facilities, including reception, banquet hall, wellness centre and additional bedrooms to the Marquis, formerly the Marquis of Cornwallis in Layham. In addition to the extensions, the full planning application includes the change of use of the adjacent agricultural field to create a new car park and formal garden. These applications come to committee because they are considered to be controversial, with 149 objections from 84 different households and 55 letters of support. The Parish Council has objected, and the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings have also raised an objection. This conflicts with the view of our heritage experts. No other objections have been received by statutory consultees. I apologise, there is a mistake in the description of the proposal in your agenda. The first word should actually read erection. Layham is divided into 2 clusters, which are separated by the River Brett. Can you see my cursor?
Yep.
Yep, that's okay. The Marquis is located in Upper Layham, which is this cluster here, which is on the B1070. And that is the main road between Hadley and the access for the A12 at Halton St Mary. Hadley sits to the north of Upper Layham and can be accessed easily by foot or bicycle along a pathway. Excuse me. Layham is classed as a hinterland village. Oh, sorry. In the core strategy, but has limited facilities, which include Marquis in Upper Layham, the Queen's Head, and the church in Lower Layham, and the village hall sits roughly between the 2. The hatched area shows the application site. Windy Ridge is a private dwelling which sits to the south of the site, just here. And during the course of the application has been purchased by the applicant. The Marquis is located to the north of the site, in this area here, with the nearest neighbours being in Old Orchard, which is this road here. The application site is shown in red and includes the existing hotel and car parking area. So the existing hotel is here, and this is all the car parking area. And there's an access point on the 1070 just here. The rest of the application site is here, which is a large field that wraps around Windy Ridge, but it's only this outlined part here that forms the application site. The agricultural field has a agricultural classification of grade 4, which is considered to be poor quality for farming. The Marquis comprises of 2 listed buildings, a public house and a cottage. Both are grade 2 listed and form one building. The site is wholly within a special landscape area. The site is elevated from the River Brett, which runs at the bottom of the site on the western boundary, just here. The flood zone, which is the blue hatching, extends towards Lower Layham. The majority of the site lies outside of the built-up area boundary of Layham, which is defined by this brown line along here. This is the existing layout of the site. The current owner purchased the public house in 2015. The premises had sat empty for a number of years and the building had fallen into disrepair. The owner has invested considerable sums of money into renovating and extending the building to form a boutique hotel and restaurant. So these are the 2 listed buildings here, and these are the extensions that already exist. These areas here are the terraced outdoor areas, and there's also a separate building here, which is used as a bridal suite. The access point and large car park are located just here, which sits between the existing hotel and the agricultural field, which is wanting a change of use. This aerial photo shows the site marked in red with the dwellings of Old Orchard to the north here, a farmyard to the east, just here, and Windy Ridge, the private dwelling, which is now in the same ownership as the hotel, to the south here. The River Brett runs along this tree line. A useful point of reference for the rest of the presentation will be this access point to the farm track, which is roughly in line with the existing access point. This is the proposed layout. The existing hotel is just here with the outdoor terraces and the bridal suite building here. The existing access point is just here, and the car park, the existing car parking area, is roughly here. So the extension would be built on the existing car parking area. The new car parking area, which is along here, would be kept to the top of the site. A formal car parking area just here with the access point, but also an informal grassed car parking area just here, which would be fenced and would have gates. These would be open during events where extra parking would be required. A formal garden is proposed just south of the, well, it's west actually, it's because the drawing is turned at the moment. So at the bottom of the car park, there's a formal garden proposed. Landscaping includes considerable tree planting along the boundary with Windy Ridge and also around this formal car parking area and garden. And also some grassed areas here. The landscaping is intended to screen the car parking from far-reaching views across the valley. A substation would be positioned just here in the car parking area, so that's easily accessible. This is a street scene which shows the front of the hotel with the proposed extension shown just here. So this is the existing hotel. This is the extension that is proposed. The arrow shows the existing point of access, which is to be stopped up. The existing iron railings would continue across in front of the new car parking area, and the new access point is at the end here with Windy Ridge just here. One of the major planning considerations of the proposal is the impact of the scheme on the listed buildings and also on their setting. The extension is very large. The architects have worked very closely with Heritage throughout pre-application and also during the course of this application. The main concerns raised are the position, scale and bulk of the extensions. It was very important to design something that is subservient to the listed building and would be suitable for an edge of village location. The extension has been set back from the listed building. This is the original listed building. So the extension has been pushed back so that you can see this gable end here. And the ridge is actually set below the existing listed building ridge. The extension uses the land levels, which fall away to the River Brett, to put the highest part of the building at the lowest level on the hillside. So this is how they've managed to get 3 stories in to sit under the listed building height. The roof has also been broken up to help reduce the bulk of the extension. The existing hotel is shown just here, and this is a view from the road frontage. So as you can see, the ridge has been dropped for the extension considerably and also set back so that you can read this building as the original listed buildings. The extension has a simpler design, with the end section giving the appearance of a maltings building similar to those at Snake Maltings. The rather large brick gable has been broken up with brick detailing. The bottom drawing shows the rear of the building with the original hotel on the left-hand side. So it's all of this section here, and the extension is this here. This is the bridal suite that is existing. You can see how the building uses the levels to make it sink into the landscape. The road level can be seen just here where the iron railings are. The Heritage team have identified less than substantial harm. They have classified this as a very low level of less than substantial harm. And this is mainly to do with the location of the substation within the car parking area. The architect has confirmed that this cannot be moved because of access issues. The hotel has been renovated to a very high standard, and this is to be carried on with any future development that is allowed on the site. The design and materials are considered to be acceptable. The less than substantial harm raised by the Heritage team refers to the substation. This is a 2.4 metre high cabinet that is 3 by 3 metres in footprint. This cabinet is located at the front of the site. The substation cannot be moved because of access issues. This is the existing ground floor plan of the hotel. The reception area is currently at the back of the hotel. It also shows the terraced areas just here that diners and drinkers use when the weather is fine. And this is the bridal suite here. All of this area is the existing car parking area. The current footprint shows the restaurant area, kitchen, meeting room, 2 bedrooms, 2 lounge areas, a bar area and informal dining. Toilet facilities are here. This is the existing first floor plan of the hotel, which has 7 bedrooms. This floor is not accessible to people who are less able-bodied. The same goes for parts of the ground floor, which are on different levels, and there's steps to negotiate. This is the ground floor of the proposed extension. So the original hotel is just here. And then you can see the stepping back of the extension. The extension includes a new reception area, an office, a lounge area, a bedroom, and this is the events or banquet hall. The extension also includes a lift which accesses all floors. This is the first floor of the extension and shows a further 4 bedrooms. At this level here, this is just an open void above the above the banqueting hall. At basement level, the wellness centre is proposed along with lavatories, a storage area and kitchen. The applicant has invested heavily into the hotel and has kept busy going during the pandemic with food deliveries. He also took advantage of the Eat Out to Help Out scheme in August, which was very successful for him. The applicant feels that he needs to add something to his small boutique hotel to make the business a destination hotel to encourage more visitors. He has received queries from people who wish to take advantage of the beautiful setting for their weddings. Due to the size of the existing kitchen and restaurant, this is not possible at the moment. The extension is extensive and would increase the floor area of the hotel from 882 square metres to 2,220 square metres, more than doubling the existing hotel. The car parking and access raised no objection from highways. Ecology was raised during the application. Both watervoles and otters use the river Brett, and surveying of both species have taken place. In order to protect the habitat of both species, a wide area along the riverbank will be kept as a habitat protection zone, which is shown with this hatching area here. All of this brown area is proposed to be laid down to a wildflower meadow. Considerable planting of trees is provided to screen the car park. This is an important feature of the scheme because of the elevated position of the land. The development is within a special landscape area. Objectors have raised concerns over noise potential. A noise assessment has been carried out and reviewed by Environmental Protection. It is noted that Windy Ridge, which is the nearest neighbour to the car parking area, is now in the ownership of the applicant. In terms of noise impact on the neighbours in Old Orchard, the car park has been moved away from them and the extension has the existing buildings between them which form a buffer. Mitigation measures are in place for noise leakage from the extension and is considered to be acceptable. Moving on to some photographs. This is taken travelling from Hadley towards Reydon. Old Orchard can be seen here on the right, and the hotel is just here, with its extensions going back here. This is taken from the bank in front of Old Orchard, and this is the existing hotel. This is the hotel. The iron railings seen at the front here would continue along the field in front of the car parking area. Moving past the hotel along the road. This is the existing access to the hotel, which is proposed to be stopped up. You can see how the land falls away towards the river. This is Windy Ridge and the field that is proposed for the car parking area and formal and informal gardens. This is the field which would become the car park and the landscaped area, with Windy Ridge just here. The bottom of the field would become the wildflower meadow and habitat protection zone for the protected species. And you can just see in the distance here, Lower Layham. This is taken looking back at the hotel. The gable end and the black weatherboarding would still be visible, with the extension being set back and down from the listed building. This clearly shows the bridal suite, which is just here. The extension would form a U shape, wrapping round here. Development would go no further down the hillside than the bridal suite. This is travelling towards Raydon and looking back at Windy Ridge with the hotel site behind, which is pretty well screened with the existing trees. This is taken from the other side of the valley at Lower Layham. The pink house is Windy Ridge and the site is tucked in here. This is taken from Lower Layham and you can clearly see Windy Ridge, the pink house, and mainly in this picture, the roof of the hotel just here and the car park. This is just moving a bit further towards Lower Layham, and you can see Windy Ridge here. This is the field that is proposed for the car park and landscape area and formal garden. This is the existing car park that would be built on for the extension, and you can just make out the white bits of the hotel. Again, Windy Ridge and the field to be developed. And this is the existing hotel and the car parking area. Windy Ridge, the field, car park, and the hotel. So the extension would come out here into the car parking area. This is an aerial photograph showing the existing hotel, the terraced areas, the bridal suite and the car park. This shows the relationship of the nearest neighbour in Old Orchard to the hotel. This is the car parking area of the hotel that would be built on. This is the bridal suite. This shows the car park and existing buildings. This gives an indication of how the landscaping would look. It currently looks like this. After 1 year following planting, it would look like this. And after 15 years, this is what it is likely to look like. The same thing from the rear of the building. So this is what it looks like at the moment. This is after 1 year. And this is after 15 years of development. Just for ease of reference, this is a comparison of the existing at the top and the proposed layouts of the two. The application site is outside of the built-up area boundary. However, this is an existing business that wishes to expand. The proposal would be supported by policy EM20 of the local plan, which encourages expansion of existing businesses, and policies CS15 and CS17 of the core strategy, as it makes provision for tourism and leisure-based businesses which form important economic revenue streams. The proposal does not raise any issues of highway safety, landscape impact, ecology impact, or residential amenity impact that cannot be resolved by conditions for mitigation. The less than substantial harm identified by the heritage team has been balanced against the public benefits. In this case, the public benefits include the retention and expansion of an existing business that would create a further 20 full-time and 20 part-time jobs. This would result in a total of 55 full-time and 45 part-time jobs, which is a significant number for a small rural village. There would be a good number of jobs provided during the construction phase of the development. The proposal would secure the future of the hotel for both visitors and local people who may wish to use it as a hub for Upper Layham. These public benefits are considered to outweigh the less than substantial harm identified. Therefore, this application is recommended for approval with conditions as set out in your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that full report. We've got an echo somewhere. Oh, it's gone. Good. Right. Now, ask the members, is there any points of clarification, members, that you wish to put to the case officer? Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one, Samantha. A lot has been made of the positioning of the substation and its size and bulk, etc., and the fact that it can't be moved because of access reasons. Where is it at the moment?
We cannot hear you, Samantha. You need to unmute.
Can
yes.
you hear me now? Yep. I'm sorry. I'm not sure that it actually has a substation currently. I think because of the size of it, that's why it is required.
So why is, for instance, it not considered that it could be put at the end of the car park on the route towards Raydon? It could be put further away from the building, because if it's a new construction and a new facility, then putting cabling and so forth to it, and then at that end of the car park, it will be perfectly accessible.
I'm not too sure, and it's probably a question that either the architect or the applicant may be able to answer for you, because
I think Councillor Hinton, that question could be put to the applicant and their agents, because I don't think we have the answers to that at the moment, do we, Samantha?
No, we don't.
I'll bring you in and get you to ask that question when the applicant speaks, or the agent. Okay. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, can I compliment Samantha on an excellent report and presentation. The report that I've read through has covered more than the normal details which I've experienced over the years. It is really really fantastic. Just getting back onto John Hinton's thing with the substation, that was a question I was going to ask about that, and what I'm suggesting perhaps is that, are the feeds to the substation coming overhead or underground? Because that would be the problem with the poles at the moment, is the current supply to that proposed
overhead or underground.
Yeah, the proposed substation would have to have a feed from I think there's telegraph poles going across the land, so it's overhead, but I'd just like to have that confirmed, please.
Can you help, Samantha, or is this another question for the applicant?
I think it's probably a question.
All right, so keep that one, Councillor Osborne, for the applicant. You've got a second one? So Samantha?
Yeah, it's just about the surface water situation from that site. Is any of that surface water from possibly the drains, does that go back in? Does a lot of that water go back into the River Brent, which is obviously not too far? And the other point of that is, have you any idea of how far, with all the water we've had just recently, how far that water came up on that flood zone, please?
Can you still see the presentation?
Yes, we've got slide 39.
Okay, let's go back. So the flood zones are shown here. You're quite right, Councillor Osborne. The Brett is a flooding area, and that does happen on a regular basis. However, because the site is elevated, the water doesn't creep up that far. So not within the car parking area at all, just at the bottom of the site there. It tends to use the land on the other side of the river as the flood zone because it's much lower. In terms of surface water, that is something to be sorted out through condition. The Floods Authority haven't actually raised an objection, they just wish for some conditions. So that will be sorted out at a later stage should members approve the scheme.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Just returning to the substation quickly. Sam, you did give a dimension in your presentation, and I tried to scribble it down, but I didn't get to it quickly enough. Did you say 2.4 metres? Can you just confirm?
Yeah, 2.4 metres in height and 3 by 3 metres in footprint.
By 3 metres in footprint. Okie dokie. So if it was a shed, it would constitute permitted development. But OK, well, thank you very much. Cheers.
Yes, good point. Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask for a little bit of clarity on the tree planting, Samantha. It says in the report significant tree planting. Does that mean the size of those trees, or the maturity, or the sheer number?
Yeah, both actually. Yeah, there's a lot of planting going on at the moment. It is just an agricultural field, so it's fairly barren. So all of this area here is to be planted in trees, and also around the formal garden. My understanding is that the applicant does already have the trees and is ready to plant them at any time, and they are quite big trees. The actual final details of them will be agreed by condition because of the mix. We wanted a specific mix in terms of landscaping.
Because it's just interesting to know if they're the sort of there is an existing tree that has been shown in the diagram, yes, and that's a really mature, probably 60 metres high, isn't it? But will there be in time similar variety that would reflect, echo that throughout, so there's sort of uniformity? So perhaps I'll ask the applicant themselves.
Yeah, I think our landscape officer, they've actually specified the species that they want, and that would be to complement native species for the ecology on the site.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Jameson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Samantha, there's a condition for external lighting. Could you expand on what those conditions will be at all, please?
They will need to write in with the specified lighting to make sure that it's wildlife friendly, but also that it's not going to disturb the neighbours in terms of light pollution. Just standard conditions that we use. So
does that relate to the landscaped area, or just as well?
Yes, so the position, we'll need to see the exact positioning of them. I think it's unlikely that there'll be anything in the landscaped area. It will be to do with the car parking and probably around the reception area at the front, and perhaps some on the terraced area. Again, perhaps the applicant could give you more clarity on that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands up, so there's no other points of clarification. Members. Thank you, members. We'll move on to the public speakers. First up is Layham Parish Council. John Curran. You, sir, have 3 minutes in which to address the committee, which will be timed by the governance officer. So when you're ready, it won't. The time won't start until you start. So when you're ready, you may carry on. Thank you.
Thank you. Layham Parish Council objects to the proposal. 50 of the 161 public comments have been from residents objecting to the proposal, with only 3 residents supporting it. They fear that the extensions will change the character of the village and will bring increased noise, light pollution and traffic. As a parish council, we've analysed each part of the proposal and agree with our parishioners that the proposals will make Layham a less desirable place to live. You already have our detailed objections, which are based on recognised standards and take into account all the revisions that have been tabled. Our main objection is the size of the venue, which will dominate the skyline and increase the noise and other pollutants to our quiet village. Upper Layham's population will double when the venue is in use. Placing a large elevated wedding terrace at the top of a natural amphitheatre means that even moderate noise will travel across the normally very quiet Brett Valley, disturbing residents. We applaud the intentions to keep music inside the building by keeping the large bifold doors closed, but question how this can be policed on a hot summer's evening. Wedding guests leaving late at night will talk and slam car doors, which will be intrusive to the sleeping residents. Cars exiting onto the narrow winding B1070 will meet traffic travelling far faster than the 30-mile-an-hour limit. Speeding has been such an issue that the parish council is installing a speed indication device outside the Marquis. There are currently 73 car parking spaces, yet the proposal is to increase this by only 29 to cater for an additional 120-seater wedding venue, a leisure complex, extra bedrooms, and up to 40 new staff. We fear the parking will be inadequate and vehicles will park along the narrow B1070 or in residence areas. Light pollution is already a problem, and the fear is that no matter how dim the lights are or how they are directed, the bigger car park and grounds will worsen the situation. Apart from the Marquis, Layham is a dark skies area with no street lighting for more than a mile. To conclude, we feel that the current size and activities offered by the Marquis benefit the village, but that the proposals are disproportionate to the village's size, and whilst offering possible job creation, will be to the detriment of its character, bringing unwanted noise, light pollution and road traffic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curran. I'll see if there's any questions from members for you. Members, do you have any comments or questions that you wish to ask the parish representative? No, there's no hands gone up. Thank you, Mr. Curran. We'll move on. I'll just ask the case officer, was there anything that you wish to comment that you heard in that statement?
Yes, I'd just like to confirm the parking is actually policy compliant and Suffolk County Council Highways have not objected to the scheme.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll move on. We now have a wait a minute. Objector to speak, Richard Cranfield. You, sir, have 3 minutes also in which to address the committee. The time will start when you start speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to make 4 points. I think the first one is why are we here? And I think that the truth is that notwithstanding the investment which has been made into the Marquis, it's lost a lot of money. It's lost well over £1 million over the last 3.25 years. And the operating company, the Marquis of Cornwallis Limited, is only survives because of support from its shareholders, and is technically insolvent. And so the question about these jobs and how sustainable they are is a very open one. And notwithstanding the investment may be made, I'm not sure you can guarantee in any way at all that there will be a sustainable business. If you look at sort of weddings, over the last 47 years, you can get from the ONS statistics for England and Wales that weddings have declined in number by 43%. So the demand for weddings is dropping, notwithstanding the rise of population. In Layham itself, there's basically been 113 in the last 70 years. So these are not local weddings. There are, within close distance, 13 other currently existing local wedding venues. And so I would suggest that to the extent that weddings are attracted to the Marquis, they may well be taken away from other businesses in Hiltersham, Kersey, the Tall Booth, all around here. So I think that I would suggest that the reason we are here is because the Marquis is not trading profitably, and it's a doubling down. And I think that the site is a huge expansion, 3 acres expansion. The building is overwhelming to the listed building. And so I object on that basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll just see if members have got any questions for you. Members, do you have any questions to the objector? No, I see no hands gone up. I'll take that then that there isn't any questions to you, sir, so we'll move on. We'll now ask the supporter to speak. Linda Karen, you have 3 minutes in which to address the committee. The time will start once you start. So if you'd like to turn your camera on, and then your...
Chairman, can I say my hand was up? I had difficulty putting my hand up.
Oh, sorry. You've got a question for the objector?
Yes, I did, actually.
Right.
I'm sorry, I had difficulty putting the hand signal up.
Hang on a minute. Linda, Karen, can you please hold back for 1 moment, and I'll ask the objector. You've come back. Good. Would you like to put your question, Councillor McCarron?
I would. Mr. Cranfield, you obviously have done a lot of research in the numbers and the impacts and the business success. In terms of the employment that is promised, in your view, the people of the village are probably not going to be part of the people applying for jobs. Where do you think those people are going to come from if they were going to be employed by the hotel?
I think I struggle really to answer that question because there may well be people who live locally who would get employed and would be able to get there. But there are obviously some people, the numbers concerned must mean that there'll be people coming from a distance. I think my real point about employment was that the losses are just not sustainable, and you're just relying on the shareholders of the company to support it. And I think life shows that over a period of time, these things change.
I think, Councillor McCarron, the same question should be put to the applicant.
Yes,
to see whether they can,
sorry, Chair.
No, I think the objector has been very fair and tried to answer it for you, but I think perhaps you might get more from the agent. Right.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will now go to the supporter to speak, Linda Karen. You have 3 minutes. Perhaps you turn your camera on and your mic on, please. Right, I can see you. Can't hear you at the moment. Your mics, you unmute yourself. Yes?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Although your mic is saying it's on, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm speaking on the phone.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. As owner of the property nearly opposite to the Marquis and 2 other properties in close proximity, I have a strong interest in the future of the Marquis. I am a supporter of this development. The proposal continues the tasteful, upscale style in which the current Marquis was renovated. I can honestly say that I've never been disturbed or even much aware of any activity generated by the Marquis. And I'm surprised by the objections raised because as I read the proposal, the expansion would substantially improve some of the shortcomings in the current situation. For example, the car park, which I agree does not enhance the landscape when viewed from across the river, would now be hidden. Noise from the functions, which now have to be held outdoors or in a marquee, can be taken inside. And the lighting will be redesigned to be more subdued and unobtrusive. Visually, I would rather look at an attractive building constructed in traditional style with artisan bricks than the current car park. But these considerations are details, and I would think that any issues could be dealt with by appropriate conditions accompanying the approval. The most important consideration is the economic reality of the situation. We lived with a derelict pub for way too long, and it benefited no one. The model of the small local pub is no longer viable, as evidenced by so many closing each year. We must accept that another kind of business model is required. I can understand that the ability to hold functions such as weddings is essential to the viability of the business. To me, a successful Marcus benefits the community in many ways. The employment opportunities it offers are obvious, but remember, many of these jobs are given to local kids seeking their first ever employment. There is the added footfall to Hadley with knock-on economic benefits and the sense of pride the community can derive from having a thriving, attractive establishment in their midst. The owner of the Marcus is hands-on. He has shown his desire to be a good corporate citizen, and his willingness to double down with increased investment shows his commitment and optimism about not only the Marcus, but the community in general. Certainly through this horrible pandemic, one thing we have learned is the importance of community and how much we are all interlinked. Our success is linked to our neighbor's success. It is in our own interest to realize that we should support and encourage the success of the Marcus. Now is not the time to be short-sighted or parochial. The alternative to a successful Marcus does not bear contemplation.
Thank you. I take that you're finished just
Yes.
a few seconds before your time. Thank you very much. I'll just see now if there's any questions to you. Can I just ask one? Can you just clarify whereabouts do you live? You said opposite or near?
I live in Layham Hall, which is just slightly down the hill across the street.
Right. Thank you. It's just so we're clear on that. Members, have you got any questions to the supporter? No hands going up? No, thank you very much. We'll move on. We'll now move to the application. The applicant to speak, Stephen O'Leary and Will Hardwick. We have 3 minutes in which to address the committee. Sorry, perhaps Linda, you can turn your camera off. Thank you. And now perhaps can Stephen O'Leary turn his camera on and his mic, please. Good morning. Yes, I can see you.
Good morning.
Can you speak? Yes, we can hear you. Okay, your time will start when you start speaking. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank everybody for turning up and providing me with this opportunity to speak. Obviously, the Marquis was run down and empty for some 5 or 6 years. When we purchased the building, we then went with a local architect from the village to try and turn this into a thriving business. As we've progressed through the last 3 years, it was apparent to me that we needed to have some other reasons why people from outside of the area would like to come and stay here. And to that end, we decided to work with the planning department to design a building that would support itself, including the restaurant. And to that end, we designed the wedding venue with a wellness centre, spa, underneath it. Obviously, during the planning process, we've changed the design to fit the older part of the building and to try and not spoil other people's views of this area. The process has been quite a long-winded one because my understanding of planning was not that great, and so I've had to work with a specialist to get to where we are. We end up at the moment with the use of the original building and the rooms only being 30% of the time. And so we believe that by extending the building and having the wellness centre, we can utilise the rooms that we already have to a greater percentage, and then obviously we're expecting to receive other people. The wedding venue itself came to fruition because of the amount of people that have asked if we could do weddings, and without trying to spoil our regular customers, it was going to be impossible. So those are the reasons why we've gone with the extension as it is. I purchased the field next door, and so that enables me to shut down and turn the ugly looking car park into a formal garden. I think if we'd have had more comment from the parish council and or people prior to this application, we would have probably done more planting anyway. But in the 3-year period that we've actually been open, we have not received a complaint about noise, light, or anything else.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Leary. Your time is up. Thank you. I'll just say, I think there'll be questions for you. Sure. Perhaps you could keep nearer to your mic so we can hear you clearly. We could hear you, but there'll be more going on now. Right, I've got, I'll take it in order that's come up here. Councillor Lee Parker.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, Mr. O'Leary. I wonder if I could just ask you, one of the previous speakers, Mr. Cranfield, made much of the fiscal position, and obviously we're not here to consider financial positions, merely the planning merit of the application that's before us. But nonetheless, you'll appreciate that if members are minded or were minded to support this application, it is going to change the landscape here forever. I'd just like your comments. Mr. Cranfield mentioned that this application amounted to a doubling down. So I'd just like to hear your comments on that, just briefly, if I may, Mr. O'Leary.
So the turnover of the Marquis and the profitability of the Marquis has improved year on year, to the extent that the last full year of trading that we had, there was a profit on the business of £7,000. That's not fantastic, but obviously in the first 4 years of the business, we have depreciation on all of the equipment that we have purchased in the first 18 months of building the business. So we are going in the right direction, and I wouldn't be proposing an extension which is going to be a few million if I didn't think that we were going to succeed.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. O'Leary.
Good morning.
Interesting, Mrs. Keenan raised in my mind the fact that a lot of hotels are actually employ young people. That's the nature of the business, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Young people, temps and students. So where do you think, in terms of employment, where do you think you're going to recruit your staff from?
Well, I mean, obviously we already recruit, and we recruit from the village itself. We recruit from Hadley. We recruit from East Bergholt, Raiden, and Cape St Mary. And
okay.
those children as well as adults, that's where they come from now. And we are actually going through a process of reopening on the 12th, and we've got a whole new generation of youngsters that are going to come and join us.
If you were recruiting from further afield, because as a result of the pandemic, many young people are travelling all over the country to find work, aren't they? I didn't see any facilities, and it might be my mistake, for staff, any staff quarters.
So we purchased Windy Ridge, which is obviously the building opposite us, and at the moment we have 3 employees living in that building.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Leary. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just following on from that point, Mr. O'Leary, how many full-time employments do you think this will eventually encourage to be employed there? I do understand that a lot of part-time workers would be working there. That's understandable. But how many sort of full-time additional jobs, or how many have you got now?
So at the moment we have 20 full-time staff and 25 part-time staff. We expect to employ another 20 full-time staff, and we're expecting another 25 part-time staff.
So you're doubling. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hinton. Councillor Hinton.
Come on.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. O'Leary, just a quick one. I asked a question earlier on about the need for a substation. Why is there no substation at the moment, but there is need for one now? And if it's a new requirement, why does it have to be in the middle of the sort of car park area? Can't it be put towards Windy Ridge, that end? So
that's not our choice. That's the choice of the of National Grid. I think when Samantha was going through her plan, you saw opposite the Marquis, so there's a lane, and the cable is going to come down that lane, then go underneath the road, and then come across. I mean, from my point of view, obviously, it's going to be near my reception, and it's not ideal. But it is actually, although it's 2.4 metres, it's actually sunk into the ground, so it's not as high as it sounds. And obviously, what we'll be doing is covering it up. I mean, I'm not going to do all of this and then end up with the substation looking at all my customers.
Camouflage it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Jameson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Morning, Mr. O'Leary. The parish council made a comment about light pollution.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be a condition for external lighting, so I wondered what you're going to do to limit or mitigate the light pollution, and also is there going to be any lighting in the landscape area?
So, first of all, we've already trialled low lighting, which actually sits right into the floor, and we have directioned the lighting, and then hopefully with shrubs and so on and so forth, we'll be able to see what the pollution is and then deal with it. I mean, one of the peculiar things is that obviously we've been open for 4 years now, and we've got post lighting, and we haven't received any complaints about it. But what I did was go to the other side of the valley, and then we've actually covered up lighting that faces away from where we need it. But what we've done now is take those post lights out as you drop down the slope into the car park and put two at ground level in the floor. And so we will continue to deal with that. The shame is that if these things had been mentioned to me before, then we would have dealt with them already. The light pollution issues only come up once we apply for planning permission. It's never been brought to our attention before.
And is there going to be lighting in the landscape area down towards the river, or not?
I suppose the reality is we'll be coming back to Samantha and the planners to see what is and what isn't acceptable. I mean, from my point of view, we don't have, well, the big tree that somebody spoke about, which is an oak tree, we have an uplight in that tree, and that is outside of the dining areas. That's the only lighting that we have.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Mr. O'Leary. Yeah, you've actually resolved one of the questions I was going to ask you, which was about the Windy Ridge. So I take it that will be for employed people that are going to work there, and so that will be extended further, I take it, in terms of internal bedrooms and stuff.
I think. Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Leary, if you want to answer that point.
Yeah, we were given the opportunity to purchase, and it was absolutely ideal because you know, for my opinion is that we're moving the noise away from the village, and so Windy Ridge would have been our biggest opponent, if you like, and so we've dealt with two issues. We already rented two properties in the village, and we've reversed out of those two properties and purchased our own.
Thank you. One other question. Talk about the parish council. Have you had any, well, through this application, have you attempted or been into the virtual meetings with, or been invited to a virtual meeting, or asked to be part of the parish council area in terms of comments, please?
I've been along to the last two parish council meetings, and I've actually spoken to Mr. Curran last week. But prior to that, I haven't been invited, and there hasn't been the opportunity for me to then progress the relationship.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ayres.
Good morning, Chair. And good morning, Mr. O'Leary. I'm interested in the employment aspect, and you do have accommodation and apprenticeships. Would there be an opportunity to have an apprentice chef or linked with the college?
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to create a menu which is varied and so on and so forth is difficult, and so we have 3 senior chefs, and we work with the Colchester Technical College, where we have chefs educated now. I mean, ideally for me, if we were allowed to have the new building, it gives us the opportunity to do more training on site and to work alongside the Colchester Technical College, which is absolutely fantastic, because if I can train and promote from within, then I just feel like the people that work for me are happier, and I work alongside these people if my general manager's not, and when you see young girls specifically come here with anxiety issues and so on and so forth, and then just watch them blossom, it's fantastic. I mean, it is probably one of the best things that we have, to be honest.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Glad to hear it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the last hand I've got up, I can't say any others after this, which is Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. O'Leary. I think you've heard me mention inquiring about the trees that you're planning to place. Yeah. Would you like to give us a bit more detail?
Can't hear you, Mr. O'Leary.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Trees are, I live for trees. So at this moment in time, we have planned 172 new trees, which will be oaks, ashes, whatever it is that the ecologist, Samantha and I can work to. Yeah, I mean, they will be everywhere. You know, I cannot have a wedding venue without the destination. So it is the most important thing. As I think Samantha mentioned, I work with a company just the other side of Dedham. We already have 150 trees in growth because I need immediate impact. I was hoping when we started this process to have been planting in September, but because of COVID and so on and so forth, we're way out now. So I've now got to wait probably until next September. But be assured, there will be more trees planted than are asked for. You know, this is about having a fantastic venue with shrubs, trees, and views. That's what it's about. And just to go back to the lighting, I don't need to have fantastic lighting when we've got fantastic views and fantastic sunsets here already.
Thank you. I'm pleased to hear that, because I think the views across the valley, as it's rising land, the smaller varieties would not have blocked out when there's an incline. I did live recently near a popular wedding venue. The only time that it was actually very noticeable was when the parties want to have fireworks sort of at midnight or
we live in an area where there are lots and lots and lots of horses. You know, we're not having fireworks. We don't need fireworks. I think the point is when somebody comes to me and requests to have their wedding here, then the restrictions that we put in place straight away will not affect what we're doing, and the reasons for it are really good. You know, I mean, the lady that spoke earlier, Mrs. Keenan, her horses are here. The gentleman that objected across the river, he's got horses. You know, we're not here to spoil pigs. I need these people to come back to the Marquis once I've done this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and sorry, finally, I just want, there was a question, heard about the treatment along the river's edge, the sort of keeping it segregated. How are you going to safeguard that so that it remains a sort of wild area for
I mean, I have to work alongside the ecologists, obviously. We've spoken to the local water authority people, and you know, we just need to work with them. It's not an issue. I mean, from my point of view, I'm not an ecologist. I've had to we've had to bring people in to deal with this, to deal with place services. So whatever we need to do to address the damage that we've done, we will do. And I think, you know, the point about trees and so on and so forth is all relative. You know, we need to make sure that we've got an environment that people want to come and sit in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. I shouldn't have said you were the last hand up because I've got two more now. So we'll carry on. Councillor Busby, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the county mentioned that the parking spaces were sufficient, but I guess most weddings occur Friday, Saturday, which are obviously your busy times anyway. Are you confident that you can cope with two peaks, one at the wedding and one at the dining?
Well, we've never filled the car parks that we've got now, and obviously the greened area that we've put alongside the general car parking area should suffice. If we need to, I mean, the first thing that's not going to happen is people are not going to be parking out in the street. You know, I have a very good relationship with the farmer across the road, and when we were, I can't remember what we were doing. We had to park cars. Oh, we had a classic car show, and so we parked all the staff cars across in the farmer's field, in the farmer's yard. So I mean, you know, if I don't see it, you know, we've done the calculations, we know where we are. But if I need to go and speak to the farmer across the road who I get on well with, whose electricity supply is coming through his drive, then we'll have a conversation with him, you know, and we'll park the staff cars over there. We've also, which obviously wasn't in this plan, we can park another 15 cars in Windy Ridge anyway, which can be the staff cars.
And just finally, it sounds like you've had quite a few conversations with the planning team.
Yeah.
Have your designs changed much since you first started out on this?
I think the conservation officer is the one that reduced the size of the building. We've probably lost 3 bedrooms, and we've probably moved away from the road. You know, I think I understand. He's got a job to do, and obviously I'm trying to do mine, you know, so we've had to appease that situation. I think the village boundary scenario is peculiar, because if you actually stand across the other side of the river, the conservation officer has made us drop the building into the land, so actually you can see the farm buildings behind my building. So it's not as though we've come to the end of the village and we're plonking a place, you know. So we've had to work with him to reduce the size, to bring it down, and that's what we've done.
Thank you. Good, thank you. It looks a very sympathetically designed building as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jameson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Again, in terms of the extension. What are you going to do to get to as close or to carbon zero in terms of build standards? Obviously, you can't do a lot with the old building, but the new building.
Yeah, I mean that's an issue that I mean, because this has been such a drawn out, protracted issue, we've been dealing with the stuff we're dealing with. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to future-proof the car park area. We're going to run cables underneath the car park towards Windy Ridge, so that as things develop, we've got a different direction that we can go in. You know, and it's. There isn't anything specific that you know, power usages and so on and so forth that I have been able to get my fingers into. But as we now go to the next stage of getting in quotes from builders, and then obviously we will be looking at, you know, energy usage, carbon footprint. I was going to try and construct with the use of planting our carbon footprint neutrality, but there's cleverer people out there than me that are going to have to do that, because I couldn't, you know, work out if I was planting and we taken over a ploughed field that had, you know,
I think that you've answered that question. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Jameson. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. I didn't really answer if we're going to go for fabric first, but
sorry. Did you want to put that other point?
Yeah, I was going to say. So you're going to, when you do the actual build, you're going to actually look at the fabric of the building, or get your builders to look at that to reduce keep the standards low.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, one of the things that is of heavy use is heat. You know, so yeah. I mean, I need them to look at all of it.
Right, thank you. There's no other hands up, members. So I'll take it then that there's no one else that got any more points of clarification. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Leary. We'll now move on. Thank you. If you turned your camera off and your mic off. We'll go to the ward member, which is Councillor John Ward. You, sir, have 5 minutes in which to address the committee.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for major additions to the Marquis Upper Layham. Following a long period of lying disused and looking in a sorry state, this traditional country pub was acquired and given a new lease of life by Mr. O'Leary. The listed buildings have been beautifully restored, and it is now a popular restaurant and venue with accommodation, function rooms and a lovely outdoor terrace overlooking the Brett Valley. It's the local business that provides employment, as well as being a significant player in the local hospitality sector. The applicant now wishes to expand with a banqueting hall, further accommodation and a wellness centre. This will be of great importance to the local economy by providing not just construction jobs, but also continuing business for local suppliers, and of course the additional permanent jobs that the expanded business will provide. As you have heard, 45 new full and part-time jobs, which is a substantial number for a rural area like this. The extra accommodation is also needed in the area and will support both Babergh's aspirations to grow Hadley as a destination and the desire of the South Suffolk Task Force to build a coherent offering around the art heritage of the district, which includes Cedric Morris's former home at nearby Benton End. Suffolk County Council Highways has identified measures to mitigate the impact of the construction and additional ongoing business traffic. They have specified access and parking management requirements and matters that the construction management plan must address. There were concerns in the initial response from Place Services, particularly regarding the landscape and visual impact of the new car park and formal gardens. Following recommendations, changes have been made, which are now acceptable. Concerns about lighting and noise management have also been addressed, and mitigation measures are acceptable to our environmental protection team. Anglian Water is satisfied with the ability of the sewage system to cope with the additional flow, and the County Council's flood and water management team has also given approval for the surface water management and SUDS. A number of our planning policies relate to this application, but I want to address how those policies that relate to the economy support it. Saved Policy EMO1 states, employment-related development proposals which are not covered by other policies will be judged in particular against the expected job creation, the potential effect on residential amenity, environmental quality, traffic generation and road safety, and site accessibility by a range of transport modes. All these criteria have been addressed, and where requested, changes made to ameliorate any adverse effect. More importantly, Safe Policy EM20 states Proposals for the expansion and extension of an existing employment use, site or premises will be permitted, provided there is no material conflict with residential and environmental amenity or highway safety. The supporting text for this actually goes on to say, given a local economy where inward investment from outside firms is traditionally low, the protection and promotion of indigenous businesses take on an even greater importance. In the interest of providing further employment opportunities, safeguarding the future of local businesses and strengthening the local economy, there will be a strong presumption in favour of permitting the expansion of an existing firm or other employer. I couldn't have put it better myself. We need to consider the future of this excellently run business and allow it to expand. The 2014 core strategy is also clear on the need and benefit of economic growth and states that our preferred approach is through an economic growth jobs-led strategy and that there are no compelling reasons to stifle or impede this. It also talks of strengthening the rural economy. Specifically, policy CS3 states proposals for employment uses that will contribute to the local economy and increase the sustainability of core villages, hinterland villages and the rural economy will be promoted and supported where appropriate in scale, character and nature to their locality. Policy CS17 also talks of encouraging sustainable tourism and leisure-based businesses. Now, as you've heard, there are admittedly a large number of objections to this application, and I do recognise the legitimate concerns raised in the Parish Council statement today. But the issues that objectors raised regarding traffic, lighting, noise, visual impact, water management and other matters have all been addressed and mitigated, and there are now no holding objections from the statutory consultees. Some, and we have heard this today, also question the need for a venue such as this, question its viability and point to existing competition, but these are subjective opinions and are not material planning considerations. You will see from the documentation before you that the applicant has been very approachable and willing to take on board recommendations for improving the application and mitigating its impact so that any potential conflicts between our economic policies and other planning policies are resolved. This new venture represents a very significant investment and faith in the local economy by the applicant, who is local, having been a resident of Raydon for, I believe, some 30 years. The economic benefits are clear, not just locally, but to the whole district. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Well done. You've had 30 seconds left. Right, members, have you got any questions to the ward member, Councillor John Ward? Is there any hands going up? Doesn't look like. No. Okay. Thank you very much. Then we'll move on into debate. I will now open the item up for debate. And again, I'd ask councillors to use the hand up function. If not, I'm going to have to start with alphabetically order and ask Councillor Suez. We've got somebody, right? That's fine. Councillor Busby, if you'd like to start.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think first of all, I think it's a shame that we didn't have a site visit. I went out there with Lee Parker on Monday to look at the site, and you get a significantly different perspective of the development when you're actually on the site, and it would have been worth everybody on the committee going out there. I mean, it was a great presentation by Sam, but I still think there are times where we ought to visit the sites, and this one was one of those occasions. I was pleasantly surprised when I was there that how the impact wouldn't be as great as I thought it was going to be. And I think it will be a sympathetic addition to the existing buildings, which have been tastefully done and very classily done. And I think it will be an added benefit to the area. I'm sure Hadley particularly will get a lot of extra trade because of it.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Super. Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I too tend to agree that looking at the plans, it's going to represent a very sympathetic addition to what is there. But nonetheless, it is a substantial addition, and it is, as I said before, it's going to change the scenery there forever. So I'm just wondering if we got anybody here from Heritage Chair at all, because you know, it's interesting on page 14, the opening comment from the Heritage team is that the changes to the proposed extensions are now almost acceptable, which is not exactly helpful. I mean, it's a bit ambiguous. I mean, either they're acceptable or they're not. So I mean, Sam mentioned it in her presentation that it offers, I think, a very low level of less than substantial harm.
Correct. Yep.
But then it does mention about the very unsightly substation, which is not appropriate. So I'd just be interested to know if we've got anybody from Heritage. I'd just be interested to hear their comments at this point, if we've got anyone.
I'll see whether we have. I don't believe we have. Samantha?
Yeah, I have just asked Jonathan Duck to join us.
Right.
I don't know whether he will need someone to let him in, Robert.
So
No, he should be able to join straight away, Sam, as he's an officer of the council.
Okay.
Dr. Duck, have you managed to join us? Yes, I saw him. Yes, there you are. You're muted at the moment, sir. Well done. You're unmuted, those famous words. Did you hear the question from Councillor Parker? If not, I'll ask him to say it again.
I didn't, Chair.
No, that's
sorry.
fine. Councillor Parker, can you just repeat
Jonathan.
the comment of page 14? I think that's important.
Yeah, so Heritage comments and the opening line on the presentation at page 14 says the changes to the proposed extensions to the Marquis of Cornwallis are now almost acceptable from a heritage team perspective. So I made the comment, Jonathan, if you don't mind, that's it's somewhat ambiguous. It's almost acceptable. So just be interested in your comments.
Yeah, understood, Councillor. It is ambiguous. Sometimes we're in a position where something isn't quite acceptable, and what I can't say is hand on heart there is no harm, because I've got to be true to what I think, and there is some harm, but it's for the planning officers to weigh the balance. Now, with the suggestions I made that the ridge of the perpendicular range be lowered and the substation against the road be relocated, I think that harm could be diminished as low as it could possibly be, because I can't say there's no harm, because it is a large extension. But we've been in negotiation a long time, and I think actually it's quite an exciting scheme, but I accept it's very big. So what I'm saying is, yes, there is harm. We can get it down as low as possible, but given that the building is what it is, I cannot say there is no harm.
Can I just help you both out there? It was comment, I think Samantha said this because it's early on in my notes I wrote down. Less harm, low level, which is basically what Dr. Duck has just said as well. So I think that's where we are with it. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Jonathan, as well.
Councillor Hinton, perhaps you'll stay with us, Dr. Duck.
Yes,
if Dr. Duck could stay with us, because he's just mentioned the relocation of the substation. Who authorised the relocation of the substation? Was it the national energy provider, or was it under our auspices? Because the implication's been given that the substation's been put there without us having any much say in the matter. But if we can move it a bit, surely we can move it a lot and move it further away from the building.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. To be honest, I don't know. I just noticed that it seems to be relocated, and I felt that was harmful.
I believe, Councillor Hinton, that the applicant said that it was National Grid that it asked for it to be there because the wire had to come under the road or something, and that was the best place for it.
But if it's put under the
John, we've lost you.
Sorry, if it's put under the roadway from that farm down to the main road and then comes underneath the B1070, then surely it isn't beyond the wit of modern engineering to move it 100 yards further down the road by the side of the road to a substation located further away from the building. I know that National Grid are looking at the moment in increasing the amount of electricity transmitted across Babergh, and that the transmission lines going across the Brett Vale are going to be possibly up for expansion again, because they've got to somehow or other get rid of all this electricity that they're generating in the North Sea and get it to where people actually need it. And that means increasing the number of big power lines that go across the place rather than putting it under the sea. So whether this is part of that proposal or what, I don't know. But it just seems all a bit mysterious that all of a sudden a substation's appeared when nothing else seems to have been consulted upon.
Right. I think you made your comments, unless you wanted to add to them, Dr. Duck.
No, thank you, Chair. I
No.
don't. Thank you.
Right. Samantha, can you help us out on what Councillor Hinton's just commented on?
Yeah, absolutely. So could I just ask Dr. Duck, if screening was put in place around the substation, would that help to minimise its impact?
Well, I think it would mitigate, but the guidance that I've been reading does say, and we have appeal decisions recently that support the view that you can't hide something that's otherwise harmful by putting trees up. You can mitigate, you can diminish the amount of harm, you can reduce it, but you can't get rid of something that is fundamentally harmful by screening. So we'd be lowering that level of harm, but we wouldn't be diminishing, removing it.
Right. I think the applicant made it quite clear that moving the substation isn't actually an option because Power Networks wanted it in that location. The applicant doesn't particularly want it there because it impacts the reception area for his hotel. So, but if there is no choice, if we can minimise that somehow by adding a condition maybe to agree some screening, whether that is by fencing it and planting or just planting, perhaps that may be a way forward.
I think, Samantha, Dr. Duck, the applicant did say that he didn't like it there, but he would do everything in his powers to screen it and minimise it and what have you. So I think we can put that in as a condition, I suppose, if we were minded to approve it. But I'm going to bring in Mr. Russell, who might be able to help us out on all this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to say much new, actually. Sam covered quite a lot of the space there. Yeah, the screening is going to help mitigate, but not cancel out the harm. What I was going to suggest is that we have been given a quite strong version of events that the power operator says it's got to go there. So we shouldn't go away from here with a condition saying relocate the substation. I don't think we can do that. What we can do, if you are strongly minded, we can at least, if you could defer to us, a discussion we could have with them to see if it could indeed be moved at all. I get the impression it couldn't, but why don't we at least have that discussion? And if we can't, then it stays where it is. But we'll make sure the landscaping scheme, which we've got a condition for, incorporates a screening as much as possible of the substation.
Sounds very good. Councillor Ayres, you're next. Councillor Ayres.
There we go. Yes, thank you, Chair. Further from Councillor Ward's comments, and I too feel that it would really enhance the area because you think they're not very far from the A12. We've got the Dedham Vale, everything to do with the Painter Constable, and then we're having this gallery extension for Gainsborough's house, which again isn't too far, and to have a sort of a hotel there, I think would just be marvellous, and I really would support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really need some clarification here. You're talking about relocation of the transformer. Well, to my knowledge, or to what I've heard, it's a new transformer setup to go into that car park. If it is a relocation, where is it at the moment? You know, I did ask this earlier on at the beginning for clarification with the officer, but I can't see any situation there where, well, I
don't believe that this is a relocation, but I'll ask the case officer. Samantha, can you help out on this point for Councillor Osborne?
Could we go back to the applicant and ask that question, please?
Right. Members, are you happy that I put this question to the applicant? As if you're not, yeah. Yes. Right. Okay. Right, applicant, where are you? Perhaps you can come back. Mr. O'Leary?
Aye.
Can you, on this point only, can you answer, is this a relocation?
No, it's an increase of power.
Right. Does that help you, Councillor Osborne?
Well, it does, because in fact, the power source that they have at the moment is obviously from the old setup from the old pub area. So they probably didn't need a. I'm only assuming this, that they didn't need a substation, but now with an increase in power, which would be quite considerable, obviously they've had to go for a new substation, which is probably the advice of any energy company that are going to come into this. The other point about it all is, with this, you know, it's going to have. Obviously, I'm absolutely in agreement with you about the screening around it. However, these substations do fall into problems at some point or another, and so there will be need for access to it. So you know, I'll be happy to see it well screened. However, there is a situation where they will need probably access to it, but that is for the obviously
that would be taken into consideration, Councillor Osborne, I would think, to any screening if there was applied for. Thank you, Mr. O'Leary.
I'll just add that as Councillor Ayres, I'm very happy with this, particularly with the improvement that it'll have for Hadley itself. It's just the sort of thing that Sudbury, unfortunately, have neglected to have in their hotel setups. But yeah, I'm in favour of this application as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett, you're next.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just also, like Councillor Busby, I drove out and had a look because I was a little bit concerned about the impact across the valley, as it's open for some distance, and I believe that, you know, the disruption to views from across the valley can be minimised and are quite a significant distance as well. So with sympathetic materials, I think that will look good in the setting. And I was very impressed also with the appearance and the sympathetic treatment that had already taken place with the upgrade that took place. So I thought that that if that is continued, that sort of style, it will provide a very attractive venue. And it really is the sort of thing that people expect these days, a very high standard of accommodation. So although we've heard about viability, I think, you know, I know local businessmen who believe that you invest, but you don't necessarily see a return for some time, and that's to be expected. So I don't have concerns about that. I just probably should have asked earlier, but I wondered about licensing and operation times. Is that just something that is devolved to the licensing committee, or?
Yes, that's not our concern here. That
not at all.
It would have to go to licensing. I'm correct there, Robert, am I not? You'll be able to help.
Thank you, Chair. Rather than myself give, as I'm not an expert on the licensing,
Right.
Mr. Dupre is, I would ask for his input.
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, yes.
You're very kind, Mr. Carmichael. I did do a lot of licensing in my last job. Yes, I mean, it did run through my mind, but yes, the principles of law relevant here is this council is the local planning authority and the licensing authority. The two they're administered by the same council, but they're separate jurisdictions. I dare say this establishment, as well as having planning permission for what's there at the moment, has a premises license under the Licensing Act 2003 for the sale of alcohol, and very likely for public entertainment, possibly late night refreshment, which is hot food and drink between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning. It would. I mean, I would. If I was on the other side of the fence, I would. And I think I would ask if I was. I'd suggest the council recommended to anyone who asked that it's often wise to sort out planning before you sort out licensing, but it's up to the applicant. They can do it either way around if they wish. I don't know whether these proposals they might require adjustment to the premises license if there are new buildings that are going to be the site of licensable activities. That may very well be the case, or if they want to adjust the hours or conditions. But yes, they would have to make an application to the council as licensing authority. And if there were actually, one thing that's worth saying is, whereas with planning law there's a lot of discretion in how we make our decisions, licensing law, if there's only one representation made locally, then there has to be a licensing hearing of usually a subcommittee of 3 people, councillors from licensing committee, to deal with it. So that would be dealt with in that way. And the statutory guidance says very clearly that the licensing authority, the licensing committee, is not automatically obliged to follow the decision of the planning committee. So I don't know that hopefully that's a bit of help.
Yeah,
very helpful.
Thank you very much. No, I just wanted to say I think all the presentation and what we've heard has shown that there is it's a good scheme, and it's going to benefit the area, and it's you know, I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Jameson.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, these probably should be directed to Sam. Probably. I can't see any conditions relating to the environmental performance of the building. I just wondered, is this going to be included in the construction management plan, or is this something that should be added, or is it somewhere else that I'm missing?
I think all new build has to come under certain regulations, but I'm sure Samantha can tell us.
Yeah, so quite a lot of it would be covered by building regulations. If you're specifically talking about a sustainability condition, that isn't included at the moment, but it is something that members could add as a condition if you wished.
Okay. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Just a really quick question. If members were minded to support this application, have we got any indication of how quickly development would commence?
Very good point. Samantha, can you help?
My understanding is that the applicant wants to get on as soon as possible. He wasn't expecting the application process to be as prolonged as it has been, as you know, because of design issues and then ecology, landscaping issues that have cropped up during the application process. I think he was hoping to have really got started at late summer at the latest. So I think he is very keen to get on. I'm not sure what his timeframes are and whether he has a builder lined up. We can shorten the time limit for commencement if members felt that was necessary. But if he's keen to get going anyway, is there really a need to put a time on it other than the 3 years?
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that, considering the last year, and all of us represent parishes that have hospitality as part of the economy, I think this is a welcome development, and I fully support it. And I was especially impressed by Mr. O'Leary's consideration of staff and the development of staff. That really was quite helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick ones, as Councillor Hinton always says. Restriction on construction working hours. Have we that in mind? Have we the working hours in mind, or is this something that's got to be worked out?
Samantha, we'll take that one first.
Certainly that can be a condition. Yeah.
Linda Keenan
is now exiting.
We shouldn't add on conditions just for the sake of adding on conditions.
It is on the conditions. It is on conditions.
Well, Samantha, is it on or isn't it? Or what does it cover?
Yeah, just there's quite a lot of conditions. I just need to have a quick look through, but I think Councillor Osborne has just said that there is, and I thought there was.
Right, so it's taken care of then. We'll let you look for that while you ask your second question, Councillor.
Yeah, it's definitely on there. Restriction and construction working hours.
Right, so that will be picked up. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. So would you be able to tell us what the restrictions would be on working hours?
Yeah, normally it's 8 till 6 and no deliveries outside of those times. On Saturdays, that would be restricted from 8 till 2 and nothing on Sundays or bank holidays.
Thank you very much. Just on the other one, a noise management plan. I've never seen one of those on a condition. I'm not happy with all of these conditions going on an application. However, they are needed. I quite agree. But the problem is it's the enforcement of them, and what would happen if the enforcement fails to be able to mitigate the problems of the residents around it. And this is a situation which we as councillors often get in terms of people asking why they are still doing this, and they've gone against what they've already been put down as a condition. So, you know, I'm a bit concerned about that position, but all in all, I think this is a welcome part of the economy, and Mr. O'Leary is what I consider a person that will keep to his word. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no other hands up. I've had lots of you say that you support this, but I haven't had any proposal for or against. So I'm coming back to you, members. Councillor Busby.
Yes, Chair, I'll propose that we accept the recommendations of the planning officer.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Parker, you were next.
Yes, Chair, I'm perfectly happy to accept that second that recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
And that's the officer's recommendations with the proposals as they are. Mr. Russell.
I just wanted to check, two things came up in discussion, and some members might have thought that it would go to resolution. I just want to check. We mentioned briefly us talking to the operator to see whether the substation could be relocated. I suspect we'll have a fallow discussion and it won't get moved. But did you want that to go to the recommendation?
I think we've already been told that isn't likely to happen. But
cross that
members,
one off then.
and unless members are particular on that, I think we've had quite a lot of discussion, and I got the impression that the applicant will do his very best to conform with any screening that you want, because he don't like it any more than we do.
Right.
But unless members have got a different feeling on that. And your second point?
The second point was a mention of sustainability measures, which was brought up by one of the members. Do we add that to the list of conditions?
Well, I think Councillor Barrett answered that. That we was more or less satisfied in the present climate and with what they've told us, how they've been operating over the last 2 or 3 years. But members, there's no other hands going up about that either. Ah, yes, I've got one now. Councillor Jameson.
Yeah, it was
coming on that.
Yeah, it was about the sustainability measures. I'm not sure what you're saying. They've met them already. Is that excuse me? Were we talking about the same thing here?
Sustainability was whether it was going to have a future.
No,
no. Sorry, sustainable construction, as in the green side of things. I thought that was the point that was raised by the councillor.
It was, yes.
For that.
Well, I thought lots of the green issues were already in the list of conditions.
Well, I can't see anything on there about the actual build itself. So,
what more do you want in the build itself?
Well, as close to as best as we can get. And normally sometimes we have a sustainability management plan.
Samantha, can you help out on this?
Whether we need that, I don't know.
Right, we'll check. Samantha.
It's not uncommon to have a sustainable build condition. It certainly is something that we could add. It talks about water consumption, electricity, insulation, that type of thing. It just depends if councillors feel that that is necessary or whether the building regs would actually.
But surely they're picked up under building regs, the insulation and the water and this sort of thing. Most times I hear a building, they say that these are very strict on what new conditions they have to put in, but I don't know whether there's any necessity to add any more conditions to it, but
Then
members, it's up to you.
Then why do we have them on other planning applications if they're not needed?
Didn't say they were not needed. I said they're in the conditions that have already been explained to us by Samantha there. Mr. Russell.
Yeah, it was just to remind members of what had been discussed, and if they wanted to put that to resolution. If it's not the case for either point, then that's fine. Please carry on. I'm sorry I interrupted, Chair.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can I just make a point here that Mr. O'Leary did make reference to the sustainability of the build, and he will be doing when it comes forward with his builders, he will be partly involved in making sure that the sustainability of that build will be eco.
Right. Thank you. Robert.
Thank you, Chair. Just to sort of move things along in the sense of a procedural matter, if we could go back and ask the proposer and seconder whether they want to add any conditions, and then I think that would move us along, Chair, in the sense of that. Thank
yes,
you.
Councillor Busby, do you wish to add any more conditions, or are you satisfied with what's been said?
No, I don't think we need to add any more. I think the quality of the build will be reflected by what's already there. So,
Councillor Parker, are you happy?
Yeah, absolutely concur, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, they don't wish to. So unless there's any other new points that members want to bring up, I intend to put this to the vote in a moment. No, right. So we're proposing that we accept the officer's recommendation as laid out in the papers, proposed by Councillor Busby, seconded by Councillor Parker. I'll now ask Robert Carmichael if he'll take us through the electronic vote procedure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just confirm with Mr. Russell that the recommendation reads as follows: that application DC 20/01517 be approved as detailed in the officer recommendation. Just to confirm that that is what you have as well. Thank you very much. Yep. So members, the vote is now in progress. So if members could please go to the modern.gov app and go to the plus in the top right hand corner of today's agenda. And then if you click on the voting/attendance subsection, and that will take you to the voting tab before us, where the vote is in progress and showing us a light blue colour.
Right, it's got to scroll down. Right.
Thank you, Chair. All votes have now been received, and I can confirm that the 9 votes for have been received and 1 vote against, so the motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Right, members, we'll move on. Now it's 11:35. Do members want to take a 10-minute comfort break, or do you want to carry on to deal with the next item, which I would have thought would be reasonably straightforward? Councillor Busby.
I propose that we accept the officer's recommendations.
Right, so we're carrying on.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
That's Councillor Osborne. Well, members, I think I'm going to have to ask Robert or somebody, do we need the case officer just to do the outline? I think we do.
Chair, I would
because we've got to go through the.
I was going to say,
speakers.
Chair, to go through best practice, we should go through the presentation, and we do have other speakers here to be heard from first before we have go into debate. So if we go through the normal process, I believe that would
Well, in that case, then I'm going to use an executive decision and say that we're going to take a break and come back at 11:45 and we'll do the final application. Very sorry, Councillor Busby.
That's fine. No, I'm happy. If we're going to debate it, then I'll remove my recommendation in that case.
Thank you. Members, perhaps you'll take a break now and we'll come back at 11:45. Thank you very much. Welcome back, members. Right, I'm going to ask Robert to do a roll call of all participants. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Suez.
Hello, I'm back.
Councillor Barrett.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Busby.
Yep, here.
Councillor Hinton.
Present.
Councillor Jameson.
Yeah.
Councillor McLaren.
Present.
Councillor Osborne.
Councillor Osborne. Come back to him.
Yep. Councillor Parker.
Present.
Councillor Plum.
Present.
So, Councillor Osborne, are you with us?
We'll check the members of public if they're present.
Yep. So, Mr. O'Leary, can you confirm that you can still hear us and that you're back?
Yes, I can hear you, yeah.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hardwick?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. And we've got Mr. Curran, just to confirm, are you speaking on the next application? Because I have confirmation from the clerk that you weren't speaking on the next one. Could I just confirm that? Or
Yes, I'm not speaking. I'm listening in now, if you don't mind.
Yep, that's absolutely fine, sir. Thank you very much. Councillor Osborne, could just confirm that you can hear us and see us as well.
Yes, sorry, Robert. I'd gone into my emails and I couldn't get back as quick as you were asking. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
You can't multitask. You cannot multitask, Councillor Osborne.
I try.
Don't we all? Right, thank you. Right, then we'll move on. 6B, Layham, Suffolk, listed building consent. Samantha.
Thank you, Chair. So this is only for the listed building consent, DC 20-01518. The description is for extensions to provide additional facilities, including reception, banquet hall, wellness centre and additional bedrooms. So unlike the previous application for full planning permission, we're not considering the extension into the field. It is literally just what's happening here with the extensions, because that concerns the listed building. I think we probably already covered everything. So less than substantial harm has been raised, mainly because of the location of the substation. The public benefits outweigh the less than substantial harm because of the creation of jobs and the retention of an existing building and its extension.
Thank you. Members, is there any points of clarification that you wish to ask Samantha, the case officer, sorry? No hands up? No, you're all quite happy.
Just a quick one, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, yeah, Councillor Hinton, yes, your hands appeared.
A bit slow getting my little button. Just a quick one for Samantha. I noticed on page 36 of the report, the comments from the Society for Protection of Ancient Buildings. Whilst we appreciate that an attempt has been made to address these concerns, notably by stepping down a section of the roofline, the fact remains that the extension is simply disproportionately large in relation to the main building. Is that this part of the less than substantial harm, or are we only concerned with the substation when it comes to substantial harm?
The less than substantial harm has been raised by our heritage team, not by the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings. So their comments are in conflict with each other. So we would take our expert advice from our heritage officers.
Because we're always right and they're always wrong?
No, because it's a grade 2 listed building. It's rather like historic England, where if they object to an application, often we can override their decision unless it's a grade 2 star or a grade 1 listed building.
Thank you. Any other points that anybody want to raise? No. Right, we'll move on then. Public speakers. The parish council hasn't got a speaker, but we have Richard Cranfield as an objector. You have 3 minutes in which to address the committee.
Apologies, Chair. I don't think Mr. Cranfield is with us anymore. Who spoke as the earlier one.
Yep.
He did
I've
it.
got him down on my paperwork.
Yeah, I was just checking my emails, Chair, just to confirm that he did wish to speak on both. So,
well, I can come back to him at the end, I suppose.
I will drop him an email urgently because I don't have a phone number and ask him to join the meeting if he still wishes to speak, if that's acceptable to you, Chair, and to Mr. Dupre as our legal advisor, if that's an acceptable course of action.
Indeed, I'm here as legal advisor. Yes, that seems fine to me. I did notice that Mr. Cranfield, his name disappeared from the list of attendees soon after we finished the speaking on the first.
Yes,
so
I
maybe that but it's quite right to check. Yes, I agree with that.
Right. Do I need to wait and find out whether he's going to speak? Because there is an order, isn't there, a procedure here, and to add him back after the ward member wouldn't be the right idea, I don't think.
That's at your discretion, Chair. Is the honest answer there? There is.
Before we go to the ward member, I'll see if he's rejoined us. Okay, and if he wants to speak. So we'll move on to a supporter, which is Linda Keenan. Are you with us still?
I think Linda Keenan might have left earlier as per the other point, but I wasn't clear whether she wished to speak in both supporter capacities. So I would assume that following on from the speech earlier, Chair, that might have been just for the first one.
Yeah. I will then move to the next part, which is the applicant to speak, Stephen O'Leary. Well, I know he's with us, so you, sir, have 3 minutes in which to address the committee. When you're ready, sir.
I think we all assumed that the first 3 minutes was the only 3 minutes, and I think that's probably why people have left. From my point of view,
sorry to come in there. He'll stop the clock. Mr. Carmichael would have made it quite clear that there was 3 minutes for each one, each application, because there were 2 separate applications, and 5 minutes for the ward members on each application. Okay. But I think they chose not to, from what we're thinking now. But anyway, you are here, so we'll carry on with you.
Thank you very much. From my point of view, we will continue to use the best materials that we can to keep the history of this building going, really. We're going to go to Bulmer to get their soft red bricks, which is good. A fantastic feature of what we've already got. We're obviously going with English oak as well. The substation, again, I'm more than happy to speak to Network Power and tell them how unhappy we all are with where they want to site this, and I will see whether we can't get it moved. We do have an issue, which is that there was a covenant on the car park, and that the covenant has been lifted for only the barriers of the planning application that we have. Obviously, I can speak to the farmer and see whether he's willing to allow us to put this somewhere else. But I will use all my abilities to see what we can do in Network and get that thing moved. I suppose, from my point of view, it's a slight oversight. You know, we were more worried about getting, the general planning application through, and I haven't concentrated my powers on that. But I'll give it a go and see where we can go. But again, the whole thing about this being a venue and being a destination is how I can keep it in character. That is really what the big part of this for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll see if there's any questions for you. I've just got one quick one. How quickly would you start once you've got the all the legal bits and that in place?
Yeah, I mean, I think the restriction on when I can start is going to come from Samantha. You know, as Samantha said, I was hoping to have got the car park done last September, but because of, you know, issues and COVID, you know, we're behind time. I wanted to try and get the major part of the building done in the winter months. You know, so it's going to start September, go through. So now we'll build the car park straight away. Once we've got the car park, we can then work out how we can manage the processes to see whether we've got shutdowns for a short period or whether we can work through and we get our customers from the car park past the building site. So my answer is straight away.
Right, very good, thank you. And hopefully you don't have to shut down for too much longer, particularly as there are a lot of shutdowns at the moment.
Well, I'm watching the weather forecast for next week and it's not very good. And obviously we've got to be outside. So, yeah.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? There's no other hands up. No? Okay. Thank you then, Mr. O'Leary. I'm going to go back to Robert now and see whether any of the other two public speakers have rejoined us.
No, Chair. We don't have. I've emailed.
Right.
Ian,
can I ask you now? I think I'm quite all right to carry on now.
I really think so, Chairman. I think if either of them, anyone had a bit of an IT disaster, there'd be some other means they could have communicated with Robert or with any of us. And I think it's fair that you should carry on. Yes.
Thank you very much. Members, I intend to carry on. So we'll now go to the ward member, which is Councillor John Ward. You, sir, have 5 minutes in which to address the committee.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't need that. I'll be very, very brief, as I don't really have more to say about the heritage aspects from what Sam Summers has already said, but I will make a few comments. The new construction has been designed to blend in with and complement the two listed buildings very sympathetically. There has been a huge amount of effort put into achieving this, with extensive dialogue with our heritage team. The applicant has listened to advice and made changes to ensure that the new structure retains the visual and architectural prominence of the listed buildings. Whilst there are still a few concerns regarding the substation, as you will have heard, the overall heritage assessment is that the design is attractive and, as stated in the latest heritage response and confirmed today by Dr. Dutt, there is considered now to be a very low level of less than substantial harm, and that this should be weighed against the public benefits of the application, which are significant. And that's really all I wanted to add. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'll see if there's any questions for you, Councillor Ward. Members, have you got any questions for Councillor Ward? Or are you going to let him off lightly? Right, no questions for you. No hands have gone up.
Okay,
so we'll go into debate. Councillor Busby.
Well, I haven't really got anything to say. I'm happy to listen to anybody else. I know. I think I've said it all.
Right. Does anybody wish to comment or anything? Councillor Barrett?
I think we could just go to the vote, really, because I think we've explored all the areas in one big package, really, in the first application. So I don't think there's really anything else that we haven't said, really. But I'm pleased to hear about Bulmer Bricks. That's really good, because that's very local, very in keeping.
I can't put words in your mouth, but you're all very supportive, but nothing else has come forward.
I propose we
Thank you. You'll make the proposal to accept the officer's recommendation, is that correct? Thank you. Well, Councillor Parker had his hand up next. Are you seconding this, Councillor Parker?
I'm happy to second that, Chair. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Osborne.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I was prepared to second or propose that. I'm quite happy with it. I think it's long overdue. I can remember that pub being out of touch for many years when I used to come down and play cricket around here. The only thing I can say is that the presentation and particularly the paperwork we've had for this planning application has been excellently done by
Councillor Osborne. I'm going to stop you there. I know exactly what you're saying. You've already said that earlier. I think we can move on unless you've got anything relevant about the this particular part of the application. I'm going to move on. Any other comments, members? No? Right, it's been proposed and seconded, sorry, proposed by Councillor Barrett, seconded by Councillor Parker to accept the officer's recommendation. Robert, would you like to take us through the electronic vote?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just read it out for clarity so that all members are aware. Yep. So the proposal that's on the table is that application DC 20-01518 be approved as detailed in the officer recommendation. So I will now start the electronic vote. So if members could please go to today's agenda and go to the plus sign in the top right hand corner, which will bring up the subsection on voting/attendance. If you click on that, it will bring up all the votes for today's meeting, and the vote that is now in progress will be shown in a light blue colour. Thank you, Chair. All votes have now been received, and I can confirm that the vote is 9 votes for and 1 against, so the motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Right, members, I think we've got to the end of the agenda. So looking at that, our next meeting should be on Wednesday, the 21st of April.
Yep.
And I think there's another one due on the 4th of May. Which we're looking into because I know that clashes with a lot of members' diaries. So keep an eye on your emails to see whether either of these two meetings are going to happen. I think the 21st may do, but I'm not so sure about the 4th one. Okay. Thank you then, members. Thank you very much for your attendance, and I'd like to declare the